Hey guys, how's it going? Twiggs here. So I want to kind of just jump into my thoughts on what I thought about Rinascita, the Wuthering Waves 2.0 update. And it has been quite a bit of a journey. So I'm going to kind of covering a lot of my initial thoughts and kind of expanding on them and elaborating on them with my more conclusive thoughts now that I have finished everything. With all that being said, definitely hit that like and now let's jump into this. So when I gave my first impressions in my previous video, I basically ran down that the music was great, the new map is amazing, quality of life is great, and the wings are definitely adding to that it's really great with these wings. And then when I was covering the story, I said it was so far good and the new bosses are really fun to fight. And then when I finished the story, I put out a tweet saying, I completed Wuthering Waves' 2.0 story. Honestly, it was really good. It ended in a way where it smoothly concluded the chapter of Rinascita's story, at least that chapter, but left enough to where I couldn't wait to see where the story would go next. A great improvement in the narrative, and I mean that specifically. When it came to the very launch of Wuthering Waves to just before Rinascita, Wuthering Waves' biggest criticism was, I would say was the narrative. It lacked depth. And that's why everyone was jokingly calling it Gathering Wives, was one, the story lacked any genuine depth, any like tangible, compelling story elements that you could sink your teeth into. But at the same time, what was at the forefront was this aspect of the game where it felt like you were just gathering wives. You were just building up a harem, since every female character just really wanted to jump on top of you, if you know what I'm saying. And that is still true to an extent right now, but I will say that the story, when it comes to the overall plot, definitely now feels like it has depth to it. It definitely makes me more interested in the overall arc that Wuthering Waves is trying to tell us. So we'll start off with music. Quick and easy, and something very subjective. Music is, in my opinion, one of the most subjective things out there, besides art. And in my opinion, it is a 9 out of 10. It just perfectly fits the region like a glove. And it's very contemporary music, and that's perfectly fine. It, like I said, fits the region. It makes everything feel more beautiful, and that's the thing. This region is beautiful, and so the music has to complement the region, the map, and does it perfectly well. And like I said, music, in my opinion, is one of the most subjective things out there, and the reason I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 and just not a 10 out of 10, because like I said, it's perfect, is because for me, I think some of the like more battle themes, even though the battle themes are good, the battle themes I think could hit a little bit harder. For me, I like epic battle music to hit like a fist to your face. For example, I'm a metalhead, so I would like something in those battle themes to just kind of really pump me up in those moments. And that's why I'm just going to leave it at a 9 out of 10. That's still really excellent. And so for exploration and new map, I'm kind of combining those together because they kind of basically mold perfectly well together. It's absolutely a fucking banger. 10 out of 10. The new map is absolutely gorgeous. I know I kind of showed this in my first impressions video, but I kind of just want to make sure I cover this as well. This new map is excellent. There is so much to explore, and they make exploration perfectly seamless. As you can kind of see here, when we look or kind of zoom in into the map, you see these little battle points with the 2 cross swords and then the chest. They make sure that you would kind of get an idea of where to go to explore. But the thing is that they also don't give everything to you. There are still chests to find that are not in this general location. They give you areas to kind of hop in your boat and swim. Another example is when it comes to the nightmare echoes. There are some nightmare echoes that you had to actually kind of explore a little bit in order to unlock, which kind of adds more to the exploration. For example, Crownless over here, you have to do a side quest and find these dream patrol battles to be able to find him and unlock him. And I'm going to tell you guys, FYI, the nightmare echoes are really, really good. That kind of ties into gameplay and quality of life, but I'll get to that later. But this new map is massive, and here's the highlight of it all. I'm doing it right now. These wings. These wings are absolutely just amazing. It makes exploring more fun. It makes exploration feel amazing, and just being able to kind of hop in, jump into these wings, and go around point to point feels great. In fact, and this may be a personal take, maybe, but I sometimes don't even want to fast travel. I sometimes just want to hop into these wings, fly around, look at this beautiful map, and then just kind of go and explore. But overall, again, when I say exploration and the new map, it's fantastic. It is absolutely beautiful. And the puzzles are fun. The being able to just take in this area just like this, it's already a worthwhile experience in my opinion. So again, exploration and new map, 10 out of 10. Absolutely amazing. Quality of life, 9 out of 10. Big reason why is honestly the exploration feels more fun with the wings. Now I will say, and this is what kind of takes away from me seeing 10 out of 10, is when we go back to Huang Long or the Black Shores, the wings aren't a thing, unfortunately. So definitely takes away. But there are other quality of life aspects that still help, and that is gameplay. So like I said, this goes into gameplay. Whenever we use Thundering Memphis, we had to do this bullshit lengthy ass attack that basically slows down his rotation. Well, any of your Electro main DPS's rotations, especially when it comes to Chang Liao, or if you're using Kaotaro. It is one of the most annoying things, and that's why some people don't even use Thundering Memphis. Some people just use either Tempest Memphis or go with Lingering Tunes with the big robot monster. But now with Nightmare Thundering Memphis, all you have to do is this.
Complete overhaul.
And boom, so much easier. That echo skill will not really hurt your damage rotation at all, and that makes it so much better, so much faster, and so much easier. It won't make you roll your eyes as much knowing that you're burning precious time trying to get to that final attack of Thundering Memphis's rotation. Now you just, like I said, pop it and you were done. And that goes the same for actually a lot of the new echoes. A lot of them have just really quick and easy attacks. That way they don't slow down your damage rotations, because Kuro Games has understood that lengthy attacks just slow down damage rotations, which is counterintuitive to how it naturally feels to play the game. And then there are also some other things like adding elemental debuffs, and it seems like Kuro Games is going to be expanding on that just based on what I'm seeing. So that is another thing. So quality of life, when it comes to just what we see in exploration, what we see in gameplay and combat, it's definitely a 9 out of 10. So when it comes to story, I'm going to leave this at an 8.5 out of 10. Reason is because I did thoroughly enjoy the story of the game. In fact, like I said, it added now more depth to actually wanting to get involved and getting engaged, getting immersed into the overall story of the game. And it did that. It nailed that perfectly. And honestly, the only thing I can actually find that could be a criticism toward the game's story, even though I think overall it did well, was just adding more to the whole dichotomy of what all these different factions are trying to do. And even though they did flesh out every faction's motive, I wanted more of a reason to feel more immersed into these different factions. And the one faction that I noticed that they kind of lack depth in is the Visalia family. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, by the way. But the Visalias, even though they're aligned with the Order, we don't actually see a notable character. And when I say notable, I mean not even, like, I'm not talking like NPC type character, because that's all we ever saw from the Visalia family. It was NPCs. I'm wanting to see an interesting character come from that family, other than just, oh, bullshit NPC number 1, bullshit NPC number 2. At least from the Order, like we see here, there was notable characters. Like Phoebe is a member of the Order, and we saw her basically struggling to understand why it is the religion that she feels devoted to potentially might have some shady sides to it, so to speak. And overall, the only faction that we ever saw many faces from was the Montellis. Even though I understand they're the good guy faction, but I'm wanting to see a face that kind of represent each faction. And so that's really the only nitpick I can find really in the story, is that I just want to see more faces to each faction other than just NPCs. I hate, and that goes for every game I play, I don't want to see an NPC represent a group, an organization, a faction. I want to see notable characters. And so overall, with that nitpick aside, the story is really good. 8.5 out of 10. I felt compelled. I felt like this is Wuthering Waves finally being able to actually give me a reason to want to get immersed in the game's story. Now we'll get into storytelling, since we're talking about the story. The storytelling for the game honestly was a 10 out of 10. It did what I wanted. Basically more cutscene, more animations, more reasons to see these characters do what it is that we are hearing them do, but actually displaying it on the screen, showing these characters move about, do actions, like we always say and have been saying for a while now. Show, not tell. Let us see what's happening. Let us see what's going on. Don't just tell us in just tons of exposition. I understand that exposition has its place in the story, but a lot of these games nowadays just rely on exposition dumping rather than showing. And you can tell a lot about who a character is by just showing them in these moments. As we saw here with Rocha, however the hell you say her name. You could see that she's sort of the bashful type character because she's hiding in her suitcase or whatever the hell that thing is. Therefore showing that maybe she's kind of not much of a extrovert, so to speak. And even in moments when we are actually just sitting and talking to NPCs, we're actually getting camera pans, we're actually getting cuts, we're actually seeing more animation from the models, which is exactly, again, what I want to see out of these games. And I'm talking about every gacha game, but in this case, Wuthering Waves did it very well. Like I showed you guys in one of my previous videos, this whole mission where you are fighting up a mountain, where you're going to be fighting the skeleton dragon. The storytelling was done in the mission, allowing us to not just see a story be told to us, but actually experiencing the story in a big climactic battle that just felt epic. It was really well done, and honestly, again, this is what I want to see. Show, not tell. This isn't really a big deal for me, but I hear some people actually kind of drawing emphasis to it, that they want it to be rated. So whatever, I'll rate it. Voice acting. And for me, the English side, since I listen to it on English. For me, I would say it was an 8 out of 10. And the way I view voice acting is that if I notice the voice acting, then there's one of two reasons why I've noticed the voice acting. One, it was so good that I had to notice it, or it was so bad that I couldn't help but notice it. It's one of those things where if you're not noticing it, it's because the voice acting is good enough that you feel immersed in the story, which is exactly what you want. That's how I view voice acting. And for me, since I didn't really pay attention or care enough to pay attention, that means that I was immersed in the story, therefore it was good. But there were a couple standouts to me. One was Carlotta. That is the chick that voices Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3. I thought she did a great job in Baldur's Gate 3, and I was able to easily notice her in Wuthering Waves as Carlotta, but it didn't matter to me because she fit Carlotta's personality and nailed Carlotta's personality like a glove, and it was great to me. Another standout to me was Zanny. Zanny's voice was excellent. The accent really kind of drew me in. It sounded sexy, and it fit Zanny's character really well because, I mean, look at her. How can you not look at her and think that she doesn't look sexy? Hey guys, Twiggs in the middle of editing, but I kind of noticed while looking for this part of the video that I forgot to mention my critiques, my criticisms of the voice acting. And one thing that kind of stood out to me on why I left it at 8 out of 10 and didn't potentially go any higher was because there was one moment when we were going to go fight some enemies in the game, and there was a couple of Fraxidus talking, and one of the guys that was the member of the Fraxidus, he was overclocking, and basically meaning that he was basically getting mentally fucked up. And that was how I would imagine his voice direction was probably supposed to be, was that, hey, you're turning into kind of a monster, you're getting mentally broken down in this phase of overclocking. But I don't think they gave that guy that voice direction and just told him, hey, read these lines. And so when the dude, whoever was voice acting this overclocking Fraxidus member, was delivering his lines, they sounded normal, like he was just reading from a paper. And when I say reading from a paper, I mean like, fate will lead you to me eventually, and I am merely extending my finest proposal in advance. Reading the lines at the bottom of Carlotta's page here. But yeah, it sounded just like that, like he was just reading lines rather than delivering lines. I would expect someone who is overclocking to sound like they're just, like I said, getting mentally fucked up. And so that's why I put voice acting at 8 out of 10, even though overall it was good. Like I said, the standouts were definitely Carlotta and Zanny, but that one moment hurt it for me just because whoever was the director should have told that dude, hey, this is how you need to sound when you deliver these lines. And so my next one is the boss battles. Boss battles is a 9 out of 10. Every boss feels really good. As you guys saw, I have taken on every boss in the game when it comes to the Nightmare Echo bosses, when it comes to the new bosses. And I've even taken on the bosses in the holograms. I haven't 6 out of 60 yet, but I have gotten a good chunk of the way through. I've just been focusing more on just unlocking all the Nightmare Echoes so I could take on their boss forms and just experiencing everything the game has to offer. My only nitpick, again, just a nitpick and why it goes down to a 9 out of 10, is that the new Skeleton Dragon boss kind of has its moments where it can be clunky. As you saw there in that brief moment and kind of right there, I got stuck in the middle of the boss. So that does show that this boss can have its moments of being just a little clunky, but that's just a nitpick. Overall, all the bosses are mostly enjoyable. I do hate Morning Axe. I will always hate Morning Axe, but it's still good that they made a Nightmare Echo version of it. But those are my nitpicks. But again, overall, been very enjoyable. 9 out of 10. And then I can say my music criticism does kind of fit here. Like I said, I do want the boss battles to be a little bit more epic, but that's just covering old ground. And then lastly is the Carlotta story. This is kind of a bonus one since I did it. In my opinion, this is where I said in some moments it feels like Gathering Wives, which is why I put it down to a 7 out of 10. Overall, the Carlotta story does have really good moments. In fact, I really hope, kind of a spoiler, that we get to see the mirror version of Carlotta in an alternate skin. That skin did look cool on Carlotta with the mirror version of herself. But like I said, had good moments. When we went into that Sonora Sphere to see the mirror version, that was really fun. And I did like the kind of murder mystery of it. But at the end of the story, it absolutely did kind of return to that feeling of Gathering Wives. And that kind of brought it down for me. Do I think Carlotta's absolutely sexy? 100%. And I can, to a degree, look past it and enjoy it for what it is. But at the same time, it's just kind of repeating a trope that we have seen in Wuthering Waves so far. But overall, I thought Carlotta's story was good, and that's why I'm going to leave it at 7 out of 10. Overall, those are my final thoughts when I look at Wuwas 2.0 Rinascita update. And I feel really comfortable, and that's why it's kind of taken me like a couple of days to put out a video for you guys, is because one, I've been trying to get all this stuff done, while at the same time really trying to sit on my thoughts to make sure I feel comfortable and present this information to you guys, while at the same time trying to do Genshin Impact's 5.3 story and doing the exact same thing for it. So these are my conclusive thoughts. And like I said, I feel really comfortable with this. Wuwa 2.0 Rinascita, this update has been fantastic. It's been overall amazing. It's been a great experience. And kind of like what I said in my first impression video, it's been a while since I've seen a game deliver this good of an update that just blows me out of the water. And it's making me feel much more comfortable with the future of Wuthering Waves, because this was a banger. It really feels like they took our constructive criticism and just worked on building an update that just makes this game not only better for the players, but better for the overall community. And I think the devs are probably really happy with the product that they presented to us. So with that being said, definitely head down to the comments down below. Let me know how you guys are feeling about my list of thoughts here. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Do you have little tweaks that you would make? Let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know how you guys have felt with Wuthering Waves 2.0. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.